Hello and welcome to the webinar. We're going to get started in just a couple of moments. We're going to let some folks join on. We'll try to get started at about 2 minutes after the hour. Thank you. All right, guys, it is 2 minutes past the hour. So I'll ask my co-host Ned to go ahead and rejoin via video and audio. We'll get this webinar kicked off. So welcome to the webinar. This webinar is presented by Fast Slow Motion and Salesforce. And today what we're going to be talking about is what growing businesses really need to know when they're making tech decisions. I'll go through some introductions in a moment, but what we really want to explore today is as your business develops, as it grows, you're going to make some decisions on technology to run the business to help you operate. And my guest is going to talk us through a real life story of his interaction, his digital transformation within his family company that he's run. Doing a quick round of introductions here. My name is Eric Hush. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Fast Slow Motion. Fast Slow Motion is a certified summit tier Salesforce implementation partner, which means we help growing businesses implement the Salesforce platform. We've been around since 2014. Since then, we've helped around 500 businesses implement Salesforce. We've done about 1,000 different Salesforce projects. You can see our website there as well as our LinkedIn if you'd like to visit. Got the honor today of being joined by Ned Clifton. So Ned's the VP of Sales and Marketing for American Response Vehicles. Ned, I'll turn it over to you to kind of give yourself an intro.
Yeah, thank you guys for attending today. My name is Ned Clifton. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing for American Response Vehicles. We were founded in 2003 out of my father's basement. And since then, we've grown quite a bit from a one-man operation to right at 30 employees now. We have a 10,000 square foot facility in Columbia, Missouri, and then satellite offices in Chicago, Nebraska, and Wisconsin.
Perfect. Thanks, Ned. Before we get into the real content here in the webinar, just a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, everybody's muted by default. That is by design. If you have questions that you want to ask, there's a chat button within the webinar interface here. Go ahead and type those in. Todd Coder has joined me. He's a Salesforce relationship manager on my team, and he'll be fielding those questions, piping in. We do encourage you throughout the webinar, pop in with your questions. We want this to be very conversational. We want this to be an opportunity for you to weigh in and really get as much value as you can out of this time. We will have a formal Q&A session at the end where we address any questions that we don't get to during the chat. Afterwards, we are recording this session as it goes on. So afterwards, we'll post this to the Fast Slow Motion blog, and all of you that registered will send a link to the recording to your email address. So again, thank you so much for being a part of this, and let's go ahead and get it kicked off. So what we're going to go through today, we're going to give Ned some time to really talk about what they do at American Response Vehicles. I think you're going to find this is a really neat company, a really cool operation that they've got there. He'll spend some time digging into the history and kind of how that company developed and where they got to, how they got to where they are today. And then he'll spend some time talking about their digital transformation, their move from literally stacks of paper to the sophisticated kind of platform arrangement that they have now, and then where they're taking the next steps with their digital transformation going forward. After that, we'll have some time for you guys to fire some questions over at Ned and let him answer those. So Ned, I say take it from the top, man. Tell us about American Response Vehicles. What do you guys do? What are you all about?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, so we our primary focus is we sell new, used, and remounted ambulances. We cover roughly 8 states throughout the Midwest. A few of those states we just added over the last couple of years. We just picked up Iowa, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Nebraska within the last 2 years. So our territory has really grown. When the company was founded, as I mentioned earlier, my father was running it out of the basement of our house. And then we finally built the facility that you can see in the background here moved in 2007, which at that point, I was kind of working part-time, helping with, taking parts orders, helping run QuickBooks, and then kind of transitioned over into doing graphics installation on our ambulances. So like the ambulances you see in the background there, they're painted red and silver, but we add all of the additional lettering and striping to these units. So I didn't join the sales team until 2000. It was like the fall of 2010. I just returned home from a combat deployment where I was in a weapons company in the Marine Corps. And we were stationed in Al-Assad, Iraq. And so when upon my return, basically we had 2 other sales reps that were working with Blake at the time. And one of them decided to, basically take a different career path. So that opened up the opportunity, for me to step in that role and start taking on some clients and trying to grow the business. It really worked out well for me personally, because I was just finishing up my senior year at Columbia College in Columbia, Missouri. So when I first started, just kind of jump right into how we were tracking our leads and our prospects. I still have the old Excel file where we were using basically what we called our prospect list, where it had basically 5 columns: customer, data next purchase, how many units, and what the last contact was. And I quickly realized just how inefficient using spreadsheets were for truly tracking customer interactions. And so that kind of sent me down the path to start looking to see really what CRMs were available to us.
I think that's a problem a lot of people start out with, right? They're beginning their business. They're trying to figure out, in this case, you're selling to emergency departments, fire departments, things of that nature. So you got this list, right? This Excel sheet where you're probably going through the internet, the yellow pages, whatever, and you're literally typing these things into a spreadsheet, and you're saying, okay, I know the fire chief over here is this guy, and he's, this is some things about him. I think a lot of probably people on this call can relate to that, in that we tend to start out with the tools that are free, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Or just what or what you have available to you. So even going back to like using the prospect list in an Excel file, like at that time, our data, in my opinion, was very fragmented. We really weren't utilizing a server. We didn't have any type of cloud storage that we were using. So everything was still done by paper, which is what my father knew and how he had always, functioned in his years of, within the industry in emergency vehicle sales. So not only did I set out to look for a CRM platform that we could use, but we also got us set up with Google. So we had Google Drive. So really, I had all of my information that I needed wherever I was at in the world.
And so, Ned, at that time, were you the only salesperson, or did you have other folks kind of functioning in the sales operations?
We did. Yeah, outside of my father and I, we had one other guy working with us, which he ended up taking a different position with another company probably 9 months after I had started into sales. So really at that point in time in 2011, we probably had 6 or 7 employees in total. And so anyway, so once he left, we did end up brought on another sales rep, which he's still with us today. And just really, we've just kind of scaled it from there.
But you started scaling it. Step one was, let's get everybody on the cloud, right? Let's get everybody off of these spreadsheets that are on their individual laptops or machines or the paper that's in their desk, and let's put everything in one place where we can all access it.
Yeah, 100%. Really the goal with, now that we've moved over to Salesforce, which, I don't think I really understood it or realized it at the time, but it was getting on top of our data, our information, using the information that we were gathering and collecting, and using it to empower our business and help us grow.
Well, let's back up just one sec, because I'm really interested in exploring, you were using the Google Sheets, you were using the Google Drive. Mm-hmm. That was functional for a time. You kind of got to the point to where, and a point to where a lot of businesses get, where they say, this solution just isn't quite doing it anymore. I need some tech that does a little bit more, right? And so at 100%. That point in time, you started looking at a CRM platform, and you didn't choose Salesforce out of the gate. You actually went with a different solution. Tell us a little bit about your path in terms of finding that first CRM and kind of where you went from there.
Yeah. So at the time, I really didn't have a large budget to invest into a CRM. I was really looking for something, that was free and or fairly inexpensive. I tested a couple different platforms out, tested Pipedrive, and then I'd actually reached out to our manufacturer that we represent, and one of the guys on their marketing team had recommended HubSpot. So that's where I ended up landing was on HubSpot, and we used that for 4 or 5 years until really our business outgrew that platform. What its capabilities were and really what our needs were.
And that's interesting. I want to spend some time there. So the CRM piece of it at a very basic level, it was functional. It was able to kind of fulfill what you needed it to do. But at some point you said that this tool isn't right for us anymore. Talk me through some of those scenarios, some of those pain points that you kind of started to intersect with. Because I think this is something a lot of small businesses deal with, right? We'll choose point solutions that look great, that demo great, that may be inexpensive, that do the job. But at some point, we need that solution to interface with another solution, or we need the data to centralize. So talk me through kind of what that experience was like of growing kind of to the edge of HubSpot and what made you look around.
Yeah. So really what happened there is, I ended up signing up for a premium license, which at the time was like $50 a month. And then they had increased the costs on that to $100 a month, which is fairly well in line with, really where Salesforce is at. But some of the, really with HubSpot, what drove us to start looking at other platforms that are out there and available is our ability to manipulate the data that was within Salesforce or within HubSpot. So for instance, they've got some basic out of the box, generic dashboards that you can set up. But where the issue that we ran into is that I created quite a few custom fields that were, whether it was on the account or the contact, or, as HubSpot refers to, an opportunity on the deal. And that data just was not crossing over. Spent tons of time trying to get those fields to pull over onto the onto the reports that I wanted to see, because I wanted to see like what our lead generation was, what our close rate was, our win-loss ratio was, what how we were stacking up against our competition when, say, it's, competitor A, and they were the incumbent, manufacturer or brand that this department had. What were our probabilities of being able to take over that account? So then what it would allow me to do then is, analyze the data and determine, okay, or is this set of customers, is our time and money best spent by going after this particular set of customers who are already using this other vendor? Really just surfacing the data, it was very, very limited. And then on top of that, with HubSpot, any little additional feature that they offer was an additional cost, where a lot of what I found after doing some investigating in Salesforce, a lot of those features were native within Salesforce's instance. And really that's what led me down the path towards Salesforce, or in that direction.
You said something interesting there, and it's a theme we hear a lot as we intersect with businesses that are kind of in the process of this digital transformation. And it's this, once you get a look at the data, you start to see different layers that you'd like to see within the data. And kind of what the paradigm shift that we witness is, it's the ability to run your business out of the windshield versus out of the rearview mirror, right? Instead of how we have done, it's how are we doing and how will we do? And it sounds like that's kind of what you started to see was possible with a more advanced platform.
Yeah, and you care, Eric, you care if I just go ahead and go into what then investigating Salesforce, where that led me to where we're at today, just kind of the steps that we.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so back in I'd really started investigating, looking into Salesforce deeply back towards the end of 2019. We had the parent company of the manufacturer that we represent. They had a big dealer meeting in January, right before the COVID outbreak. And they had basically said, hey, look, we're going to be transitioning to Salesforce. And that's really where the interaction between the dealers and the manufacturer and the brand that you represent, where that interface is going to take place. So I was like, okay, perfect. Well, so I started looking further into it, see, okay, well, if we go ahead and set up Salesforce, our own instance, our own organization, then can I get my data to communicate with the manufacturer's data? So I'm not having to duplicate information. And that's another great thing with Salesforce. Kind of take a right turn here, but one great thing that we have found in using fast slow motion to help us set up our organization is I only have to enter data into one particular field one time, and then we're able to push it across multiple different record types, whether that's account, contact, opportunities, quotes, generating proposals, or even now we're transitioning our accounting away from QuickBooks Accountant to Accounting Seed, which is built by Accounting Seed on Salesforce's native platform. So, which does several things for us. So before, where our financials were, centralized on a physical server, and you had to be, either remote in or be there on site to get the data that you're looking for, or the reports that you're looking for. Now we're completely cloud-based. So anytime I take like an opportunity and I close win that opportunity, it automatically creates the projects within the project within Accounting Seed for our financial purposes. So we can take a look at that project, see, okay, here's what do we budget, what do we propose to the customer, and then here our actuals are. But it'll also automate like our issuing POs, invoices, inventory levels. And I mentioned earlier that we have multiple locations now. Well, one of the great things with the Salesforce solution is, we're able to scale tremendously fast. So previously, where if you're using QuickBooks, say on a server, you would have, or to set up another location, You have to get a server, have to get VPNs, have to get, all this additional software on site and set up, where now we can just deploy it by adding a user or adjusting permissions. It gives us so much better insight into the health of our business.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I think there is a distinction between growth and scalability, right? It's easy to grow. We're doing our job. We've got a product or service that people like. We got ambulances that people need. We're going to sell more of those as long as we do what we say we're going to do and we execute. But it comes a time when you kind of hit the ceiling of what you're able to execute, unless your systems are capable of expanding. And so that's kind of what we run into a lot with businesses that are in this process too, is that that's the point solutions trap, right? If you choose this system for your accounting, this system for your marketing, this system for your CRM, and they're not all communicating, at some point that data is just all over the place, and it's really hard to make business decisions. And it's hard to kind of take that next step of really escalating into scalability.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're running out of multiple systems like we were, or like we have been and were, your data is fragmented. You got to make sure you enter it into this system, then you got to come over here and enter it into this system, and then maybe you got to come over here and enter it into, really your shop, your production management system. Like with Salesforce. So initially we had started, we were just going to do the CRM, but we've done, Salesforce, sales. We now have Service Cloud, or Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Accounting Seed, Salesforce Maps, Inbox with Einstein. And then what we're going to do is, we're currently using Microsoft, for our email and our cloud data storage, but we're actually going to be transitioning over to Google Drive. So then we can, with an additional app, we can integrate that into Salesforce. So, you're not going to a file or folder directory. You're just going into Salesforce, you're going into the customer, and all your information and data is right there.
Yeah, that's another important point to bring up, is that, the ecosystem of apps and solution partners that are able to support you, right? Again, as you're growing a business, you're choosing the cheaper or the easier, or the one that's, the easiest to kind of put into place for a point problem. That particular piece of software may not have any sort of integrations built into it. It may not have the capability to connect with other systems, versus, something like a platform choice, where there's an existing ecosystems of apps and integrations, existing ecosystems of implementation partners and things of that nature, I think become very important.
Yeah, 100%. And then even the ability to view my company from my cell phone. I can do anything from my cell phone through Salesforce, whether it's, creating a case because a customer needs a new part, or they have a service issue, or creating an opportunity, sending a sales agreement, issuing POs. I mean, I can do everything right here from my mobile device if needed.
Talk to me about that for just a second, because I think that's an important point to hit on. Is a lot of us, as we're growing our businesses, we spend a lot of time getting new customers in the door, right? We spend a lot of time attracting them, getting them as a client. But after that, on the service side, you really need to be able to see what that customer is experiencing. Talk to me about some considerations in choosing solutions around that sort of handoff from sales to service and handoff from prospect to client.
Yeah. So we'll just start with the service. What we ended up setting up through Fast Slow Motion is, on our website, we have basically a form that you can fill out to either request service warranty or parts. But then we also have set up a unique email address where our customers can just email service at ARV Ambulance. So then what that does is, once that email comes in, it will notify the account owner, so the sales rep. It will notify our service manager, so he sees that it's come in. And then it'll also notify the customer that, hey, your ticket, like this case is within our system. We're working on it. Somebody's going to be reaching out and contacting you. Now, the beautiful thing about cases within Salesforce is I can log phone calls, text messages, emails, assign tasks. I can create what we refer to as repair items. So let's say they don't just need one item, but there's like five items we need to take care of. Well, you can list all those out. I can communicate internally with our team members to, on an issue to ensure that we are moving that case towards solution, really moving it in the right direction. And then also every morning, every one of our reps gets a report of, hey, were there any new cases created for any accounts that you own? If so, what were they? Just gives you the high level view. And then what I get in addition to that is I get all of the cases that were created the prior day, but then also I get a report that shows all of our open cases in their entirety and what the status is on them. So we can track items like, from receipt of or notification of whatever the request is to completion. So I can see how many days it's taken us or how many hours it's taken us to close out. How frequent are we having to go out on site and make repairs at a customer's location? Is there a particular product? Because we've correlated our cases back to products within our system. So we can quickly identify, say it's like a skirt rail warning light. And I'm using this example because we had issues with that particular product a few years ago, where basically we were replacing skirt rail warning lights at an incredible rate. I think we were probably replacing, around 50 or more a month, which is, that's a huge number. Well, I go to the factory and I'm like, guys, hey, has there been any discussion about, looking at a different light or, improving what we're currently using? And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? We haven't, we rarely swap those things out. And I was like, what do you mean? You guys have sent us 50 in the last month. They're like, but we have. And I'm like, yeah, well, now I can just go right into that product record as long as we're correlating the issue to that product. And I can see an entire history of that product, of any kind of issues. So then now instead of, now really it allows us to even help, lead the manufacturer that we represent, help them to realize where, maybe where some of the pain points are and deficiencies are.
That's really cool. That kind of bi-directional feedback up the value chain. So that's interesting. I hadn't really heard that unpacked yet, but that's cool. So what sort of impact have you seen on, it sounds like just having this kind of platform approach has probably moved the needle in both sales and CSATs. What have you seen there?
Yeah, so even when you take into consideration COVID, over the last 2 years, our sales has still grown since the implementation of Salesforce. Well, we actually got our the licenses purchased May of April of 2020, and then we've had it's been a large project for us because we are trying to push everything into Salesforce to get us to the point to where it, to where I can live in the system versus having to use multiple systems. Really within the last 6 to 9 months, last year, is really where I've started to notice the transformation. But yeah, our sales has increased over, like, we've hit all of our projections that I've set in place. And I always try to come up with some pretty high targets, just because I believe you've always got to be pushing in a direction. You got to be pushing, to exceed what, the goals that you set for yourself. Like if I set a 1-year goal, I want to accomplish it in 6 months. But anyway, yeah, our sales, even this year, has grown around 20%. And a lot of that is due to the data. So instead of being reactionary, we're now able to analyze our data and be out in front of trends, of issues, well in advance.
Yeah, that surfacing of the data and that universal visibility into the data seems to be the recurrent theme that we hear. That is the value of choosing something that's more of a platform approach versus, having a business built on point solutions. And so it's interesting to hear that you've kind of gone through that change. And that's why I wanted to bring you in here and talk about it today of, hey, this is what's possible when you have all of this stuff in the same place, when you have all of these systems talking to each other and all these different pieces of the business unified, kind of looking at the same data. So it sounds like you're still kind of in the middle of your Salesforce journey. You're only about 2 years into kind of implementing and getting everything established here. Talk to me about the future. What are you looking at doing next? Kind of what's the next evolution of ARV in terms of the platform approach to technology?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to build out our accounting solution through Accounting Seed. Our go live date for Accounting Seed is January 1, 2022. Our next step after that is absolutely going to be Pardot Marketing. And then from there, we're going to go into Salesforce CPQ.
Perfect. So talk to me a little bit about Pardot Marketing. I have some experience with that platform in my life prior to FSM, but kind of what's attractive to you about that marketing platform and how it interacts with Salesforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Clearly there are other marketing platforms that are out there and available to us all. But I want to keep everything within the Salesforce ecosystem so it all plays nice with each other. Versus having a third party that's like pushing updates or they don't update something, so then it stops communicating with our systems. But one thing I love is really you can build out your customer experience and journey through Pardot. And you can set up, different triggers like, hey, you send an email, say you've sent an email out to this customer, they haven't responded. It's been 48 hours, go ahead and let's hit them with a follow-up. Or, hey, they did open it, they responded. Okay, well, that's going to push them down this pathway. To where you can set up, I know I'm just talking about email right now, but I'll expand. But really, you can set up different, with the triggers, you can set it up like, hey, they opened it. They've spent X number of minutes or seconds on reviewing what you sent them. They didn't respond. Okay, well, I want to go ahead and assign a task to that sales rep to call them first thing in the morning just to see if they had any additional questions, follow up with them. We can also use it to push out from an ambulance build side. Say a customer has a truck on order, we can push out build updates to them, push out milestones, give them updates with where their vehicle is at through production. And then also, taking like our Google Analytics and integrating them into Pardot and really understanding our data, data in one location.
Yeah, so it's that next level, right? It's not just marketing automation and sending emails to get people to sign up for your service. It's actually now enabling that automation to provide better customer service after they're on board. Oh yeah,
100%. Yeah, because like you'd mentioned earlier, I mean, I think all of us, in business, you absolutely spend more money trying to onboard new clients versus retaining the ones that you have. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of our retention rate is right around 90% of the customers that we have. If we make that initial sale to them, 90% of the time we're gonna have follow-on sales with them in the future.
Very cool. I wanted to spend just a little bit of time. You mentioned CPQ as well. Again, another Salesforce product. Talk to just kind of tell the people that are on the call here, kind of what that product is. Why is it right? And why would you guys be looking at that at ARV?
Oh yeah. So CPQ is cost price quote. What it'll do for us is, Fast Slow Motion has built out a very robust quoting tool, custom quoting tool for us within Salesforce. But a part of our journey as a business and our growth is we're going to start doing our own remounts internally. And what that means is like the conversion that you see, the box that you see on the back of this ambulance, like this Freightliner right here. What we'll do is, say when that chassis has 300, 400,000 miles on it, instead of selling them a completely new ambulance and maybe taking that in on trade, is what we'll do is we will remount that ambulance for them. And so what that means is basically recondition, refurbish the conversion, make any upgrades or additions that they might want, and then put that conversion onto a new chassis. So in order for us, so one of the pieces of the puzzle for that is being able to quote those trucks. So with CPQ, not only will you can build really a guide to success for your team, where say you select this chassis, like a Ford chassis, it's going to say, hey, here's the most popular add-on items for that chassis, whether it's a brush guard or some type of white lighting or some type of warning lights, or like leather seat covers. It basically helps your team, really upsell the product. But what it also do for us is, like, from the conversion side, is we'll build out, really what our offerings are. And it basically walks you through, like a quote. It's essentially a quote building tool, but it's a quote building tool, but it also builds out the work order for production. So you're not having to then reduplicate, take the sales information and turn it then into production information. They fall in line together. And then you can generate proposals, quotes, send out sales agreements that will, once the customer has signed it, it automatically pulls that signed sales agreement back into, onto what we refer to as that truck record and asset record, and into their accounts. We can send change orders out. It's really, the sky's the limit with what we can do to it. And one thing I even I've tried to involve my sales team, or at least, really one key player from each one of our departments throughout our implementation. And one thing I tell them is, like, look, guys, like, I don't need an answer right now, but I want you to think, like, any idea, anything that could help you guys become more efficient, more effective, or streamline a process. Like, dude, no ask or question or idea is crazy here, because we have the ability to build the vast majority out through Salesforce.
Yes, that automation and optimization, and hey, if you can imagine it, the tool could probably do it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing I really appreciate about Salesforce versus other CRM tools is, one, like you were mentioning earlier, is the app exchange. If Salesforce doesn't have it natively, then one of their app partners might, or then maybe you send them a suggestion out to Salesforce, and communicate with directly with a rep. And also too, as Salesforce continues to improve their platform, those enhancements are already pushed down to you, like the Einstein tool, Einstein search bar. That's incredible. I just type in, I can type in a customer name like Junction City, and it's going to automatically elevate, the most recent things that have been touched on that account, or that anything that has Junction City listed on it. It's incredibly useful.
Awesome. Well, I want to take some time here because we're about 20 minutes till the top of the hour. I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for Q&A. I want to encourage everybody on the call to go ahead. If you have any questions, get those into Todd. We'll start addressing those. But Ned, I guess just kind of taking a step back, we've talked through your digital transformation. We've talked about the history of your company, from your dad selling ambulances, and then, starting it out of your basement and with a stack of paper and Google Sheets and the whole journey. As there's a lot of folks on the call making these technical decisions right now. They're choosing between different platforms. So if you had to surface some themes and kind of what you've learned over the course of your digital transformation, what kind of advice, what sort of themes would you offer to the folks that are tuning in right now?
One thing that's been huge for us with partnering with Fast Slow Motion is you guys, our implementation specialists, has really helped us develop and talk through our processes, which in many ways we have changed. due to having, really a robust discussions on our one of our weekly calls that we have with with our implementation rep. Really just what are your goals? What are you trying to get from the system? Really think through it, test stuff out in Sandbox, which is like a partial environment. Get some of your team members involved. Like one thing I did with our implementation is I thought that there was one in particular sales rep that we had that was really going to push back hard on us just because he's old school. He doesn't like change. So what I decided to do was include him in our implementation. He can't stop talking about Salesforce. I mean, the guy is like, loves it. It's incredible. He like sent me a message a couple of weeks ago. It's like, man, I'm not sure how we were ever doing this without Salesforce, or previously without using without a tool like this. This is incredible. I thought, at first you were just, basically trying to stack more, really more work and data entry onto us. But, no, you've been very focused on not only what the business needs, what's going to help you make decisions, but, making our processes and really, the functions of the job simplify. You've actually reduced the amount, we've been able to reduce the amount of data entry, therefore allowing our guys to, have more face time with with prospects and customers.
Do what they do best, right? Which is sell ambulances.
Exactly.
Yeah, a couple of great points there, involving the team. No matter what the digital transformation is, really getting your team to buy in, seeing the tools that you're going to put in front of them, talking through kind of what that evolution looks like with them, and making sure, because ultimately if nobody uses these tools that you're investing in, you're kind of spinning your wheels, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then also too, like you need to think about the data that you want within the system, because Salesforce is like any other system. It's garbage in, garbage out. You got to make sure the data that you're collecting really holds value for you. So definitely, think about that from a business standpoint. Look at what information you're currently collecting. Does it make sense? Is there other information that we now potentially have the ability to to track or to collect?
Absolutely. And you said something earlier too that really resonated with me, that we see a lot, is look back at your processes, right? And what we see with growing businesses a lot, and specifically as they're undergoing this phase of digital transformation, is their processes are inconsistent, right? And they're inconsistent because individual people are focused on their piece of the business, and they're not looking at the overall picture. So step one is figure out what that process needs to be, and step two is get some consistency in it. Because once you get that consistency, it's almost like a GPS, right? You may waver, you may adjust from side to side, but you're always headed in a positive direction.
Yeah. And another a really big thing for us with that Salesforce is helped with and allowed us to do is, with like sales, service, graphics installation, remount, like we were all very siloed. And so by pushing all of our data into one location, it's really torn down those walls in many regards. Like with processes, like building processes is not my strong point. I'm a sales guy. Well, we've got some other people on our team where, processes is their strong point. So, really involve them, have them be involved.
Absolutely. Todd, do we have any questions in the hopper, or are we still pretty much radio silent out there?
We do actually have a question from Luis. It's a question for Ned. Ned, you said that you have a 90% retention rate. How has Salesforce helped improve your retention rate, and how would you advise another company to use Salesforce to help their retention rate from your experience?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Really what it's done is it's helped us stay on top of our communication with our prospects and our customers. I can easily go look at a record and see where, where our team is at. If say that a contact ends up calling into our office and I end up on the phone with them, well, I'm turning around and logging that call and pinging somebody through chatter that, hey man, I just touched base with them. Be a good idea for you to follow up. Here's what the conversation was. From the service side, previously a lot of the service would be funneled in through the sales reps or through one team member at our office. Well, if that person's not at their desk or I'm not available to answer my phone, then it could go unanswered or responded to for potentially a couple hours. Well, now with this system, it automatically hits the system. We notify them that we're working on it. And I can see where it's at through the resolution process.
That's great. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's
Thanks again,
important.
Luis, for that question.
An important.
Yeah, and we've also added a bunch of automation for tasking as like and I'll use the not only like the opportunity side, but the actual process of building out that ambulance for them because one thing that we do, and this has saved an incredible amount of time for us internally, is the factory will send me a delivery report once a month. Well, previously we had somebody that would go in and manipulate the spreadsheet that we already had to really track that. Well, now Fast Slow Motion built this out a template, an import template, where I take the data that I got from factory, I copy it, I paste it into this import template, and then I import it, and it automatically, like right now we have over 100 ambulances on order. It automatically updates every single record. And we've set in triggers where if a date changes by a certain range, I want it to automatically notify me so I can be on top of why did that unit get pushed back in production, so I can communicate with the factory, but then also turn around and communicate that to the customer.
That's really good stuff. That ability to kind of get just that immediate snapshot, get it into the CRM, be able to act on that data. Very, very good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, updating those records, it takes me less than 5 minutes to do, where the individual that was previously manually entering that information could take 4 to 8 hours.
I imagine. Let's get a couple more minutes here for any final questions to get in. Again, if you want to learn more about Ned and his company at ARV, hit their websites, arvambulance.com. You can also connect with them on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's really cool pictures of some of the ambulance builds they have out there. If you've ever had personal experience with one of Ned's products, that's probably not a good thing. But rest assured, if you ever do, you're in a well-built machine for sure.
Yeah, Eric, and I'll throw this out there as well. If there's anybody that's on this call that would like a tour of our Salesforce environment, I'm happy to set something up with them. If maybe you wanted to be on the call as well, I'm more than happy to walk somebody through our setup.
Thanks for that.
For me personally, it helped me a lot because we had some other partners you guys had worked with, took us through a tour of their organization, and really helped solidify the decision for us.
Thanks for that, Ned. And I'm sure you'll have some folks take you up on it. And the bottom line is, with any platform decision, and Salesforce especially, having a partner on board can really help you kind of configure the software to get it to meet your needs. And so we've enjoyed working with you guys. It doesn't seem like there's any other questions coming in. Todd, am I missing one?
No, we are all clear. And I want to take that to mean that we have answered every single person's question on this webinar.
That means
outstanding.
Ned is the most outstanding presenter ever, and that he has addressed all of the questions in the environment. We will leave it open-ended. So if you do have any questions for me, feel free to email me directly. I'll get them to Ned. This webinar will be, the recording of this webinar will be posted on our blog, and I will send it to everybody that registered for the webinar via email shortly. Just want to take some time here to thank Salesforce for helping us present this. thank Todd, my co-host, and definitely thank Ned Clifton for joining us from Charlotte Regional Airport in the middle of a trip here to kind of share his experience with you guys. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Thank you,
All right,
Ned.
everyone,
Thank you,
have a
everybody, for joining.
Yep. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next time.